Democratic Representative Gregory Meeks has just invoked one of the biggest banking corruption scandals in American history and is pointing the finger directly at Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He's demanding a clear answer about whether the government will finally take action in the face of accusations that President Trump's family is profiting from foreign investments while negotiating U.S. foreign policy. What follows is a hearing that quickly spirals out of control, marked by evasions, serious accusations, and complete chaos in Congress. Welcome to the circus of impunity in Washington. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like on the video.
Secretary Bessent, if I'm not mistaken, you were working in the financial service industry during the late 1980s, correct?
I was.
Thank you. And well, I'm wondering, do you recall or you're knowledgeable of the Keating Five scandal back then?
Yes, sir. And I will point out that I was.
I don't want to.
No. I will point out that
I have limited time.
I identified.
The gentleman is from the secretary. Is the gentleman from New York Times.
So I just want to make sure that everyone knows who doesn't know that the Keating Five scandal involved 5 U.S. senators accused of pressuring the Federal Home Loan Bank Board to expedite and give more consideration to the case of Charles Keating Jr., who ran the California-based Lincoln Savings and Loans. It led to a 14-month investigation unveiling how 5 U.S. senators and staff ended up with more than $1 million in contributions, 4 trips to the Bahamas, and all expenses paid stays at resort hotels. Following the scandal, the industry saw sweeping regulatory changes that was launched by then-President George H.W. Bush. Now, Mr. Secretary, I'm sure you can agree conflicts of interest and improper influence by U.S. elected officials over bank regulators weaken supervisory independence and ultimately impose massive losses on consumers and taxpayers. I think that we can all agree upon that. And as we know, the basic lessons from the post-Keating reforms still applies today when the Office of the Comptroller of Currency, the OCC, deciding to get a bank charter. I think we can stimulate that. Now, Mr. Bessent, as our nation's treasurer, I'm sure you also know that a foreign-linked investment firm tied to the United Arab Emirates government quietly bought about half of the Trump family's crypto company, World Liberty Financial. And at the very same time, the President of the United States was dealing with that country on foreign policy. Now, Eric Trump, the president's son and co-founder of World Liberty Financial, said, and I quote, "I'm not going to get into who the investors are, but I've got some pretty meaningful investors," end of quote. Lack of transparency. And it didn't end there. When Trump fans brought the tokens, they thought they were getting the deal of a century. But what they didn't know was that only Trump and his sons had the sole power to decide who can sell the token and when. Today, the price of the token has fallen over 50%, and the Trump fans who bought the token are now begging to get out. Now, I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. You can see it for yourself on the World Liberty Financial Discussion Forum. Yeah, yourself, Mr. Secretary. So this is no longer just about a shady crypto deal or a possible gift when a foreign-linked investor is putting hundreds of millions of dollars into a company controlled by the president's family, and at the same time, this president is conducting foreign policy with that country. You know what that creates? It creates a national security concern. So I'm not going to ask much of you, Mr. Secretary. I just want to know whether you will commit today to pause and heighten the scrutiny of any bank charter or licensing application at the OCC connected to the World Liberty Financial until all of these conflicts of interest and foreign influence reviews are completed and shared with the United States Congress. All I need to know is, will you halt it and do a complete investigation and scrutiny of this licensing application? All you have to ask is yes or no.
No, Congressman.
All you have to ask
the
is yes or
OCC
no.
is an independent entity, and I would know, Congressman.
I take that as a no.
You traveled to Venezuela.
I take that as a no.
On behalf of
I
your
take that
donors,
as a no.
On behalf of your
You
donors.
do not want to answer that question. I take that as a no.
For a $7 billion.
Gentlemen's time
I'm asking you to do your responsibility as Secretary of the Treasury.
Into a Venezuelan.
You do not.
Mr. Meeks,
Will you
time has expired.
You cannot erase what you did in
He's the one that
2006.
went past your time, Mr. Chairman.
No, and
he did not answer my question, and he wouldn't pass the
Mr.
time.
Meeks. He had 6 seconds left to try to answer your question, and the
It was a yes or no. It was a yes or no answer. I asked him, will he? No, it was
Gentlemen,
yes
the
or
chair
no.
recognizes
OCC
the
is an
gentleman.
independent
Stop
Mr.
covering
Bessent.
for the president.
Yeah, well.
Stop
Mr.
being his flunky.
And
Gentlemen.
He's talking to me. I'm responding
your
back to him.
2006 trip to Venezuela.
Neither one.
Stop
why don't you
covering
tell
for
your
the
secretary
president. Don't be a flunky. Work for the American
Secretary,
people.
Mr. Meeks.
trip to
Mr.
Venezuela.
Meeks.
Work for the American people.
And maybe
Don't
you're
be
going-
a
maybe you're
cover-up
going to
for a mob.
Maybe you're going to
As
see your
long as
friend
he talks
Nicholas
to us.
Maduro
will.
in
Gentleman
Brooklyn
is not
prison.
recognized. Mr. Bessent, please. I recognize the gentleman from Texas.
For those who don't remember, the Keating Five was when 5 American senators were accused of interfering in federal investigations into Charles Keating, a corrupt banker who later cost American taxpayers billions of dollars in the savings and loan industry bailout. These senators received over $1 million in contributions and benefits. The investigation lasted 14 months and exposed how private money buys public influence. Meeks brought this up for a reason, to establish a devastating parallel. The current target? World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency company that has the Trump family as direct beneficiaries. Here's the problem. While the President of the United States was conducting diplomatic and foreign policy negotiations with the United Arab Emirates, a fund linked to that Arab country acquired a stake in this very company. You don't need to be an expert in government ethics to understand that this is, at minimum, a glaring conflict of interest. Meeks was relentless in highlighting the lack of transparency. The Trump family controls who can sell the tokens and when. Basically, they manipulate the market for this asset. And the investors? Well, they've watched the token's value plummet more than 50%. Real people losing real money while the presidential family maintains absolute control over the rules of the game. Meeks' rhetorical strategy was brilliant. He didn't make long speeches. He asked direct, objective questions, the yes or no kind. Specifically, he pressed Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, to answer whether he would suspend banking licenses related to institutions involved in this scheme. Bessent's response? Total evasion. He refused to give a clear answer, turning the hearing into a verbal tug of war. Why does this hearing matter now? Because we're at a moment where the line between public interest and private profit is being deliberately blurred. Meeks was cornered by Bessent's defensive posture, but he was also incisive in connecting the dots. Foreign investments of hundreds of millions of dollars in companies linked to the presidential family aren't just an ethics issue. They're a national security concern. When you mix diplomacy with family business, you create vectors of foreign influence that can compromise state decisions. Now let's speak plainly. This is a monumental scandal being normalized in real time. And Bessent's refusal to answer a simple question is the confession we needed to hear. Think about it. If Obama, Biden, or any Democrat had a crypto company being partially bought by an Emirates fund while negotiating foreign policy with the same country, Fox News would be doing 24/7 coverage calling for impeachment before breakfast. But when it's the Trump family, then it's just business as usual. The hypocrisy is so glaring, it's offensive. World Liberty Financial isn't just any company. It's a personal enrichment scheme disguised as technological innovation. Controlling who can sell and when is literally market manipulation. And meanwhile, ordinary investors, many of them probably the same ones who voted for this administration, believing in the promise to drain the swamp, are watching their money evaporate. They've lost more than half of their invested value. This isn't free market capitalism. This is oligarchy with a democratic facade. And Bessent, who should be the guardian of American financial integrity, sat there twisting himself into knots to avoid answering whether he would suspend banking licenses. You know why? Because answering yes would be admitting there's a serious problem, and answering no would be signing off on complicity. So he chose the coward's third option, the non-answer. Is this what the position of Treasury Secretary has become? Protecting the presidential family schemes instead of protecting the American people? The national security issue raised by Meeks is no exaggeration. When foreign governments invest hundreds of millions in companies controlled by the president's family, they buy influence. Simple as that. This creates a conflict of interest that compromises every foreign policy decision, every trade negotiation, every diplomatic position, because the doubt will always linger. Was this decision made with the national interest in mind or the family's profit? What outrages me most is the shamelessness. There's not even an effort to hide it. It's all done in plain sight because they know they have enough political protection to get away with it. And this, my friends, is exactly how democracies begin to die, not with a dramatic coup, but with the gradual normalization of corruption. Question for you watching: how long will we accept that the rules are different for those with power? Comment below.